Hello, my name is Ava, and I am 22 years old. You might be curious about how a girl my age finds herself living under her uncle's roof, particularly after I share what's coming next. To be perfectly honest, I never imagined this would be my life either. I am immersed in the vibrant, chaotic world of graphic design, dedicating my time to drawing, crafting intricate designs, and taking on freelance projects that barely keep my head above water. Life has been a challenging, nomadic existence ever since my parents separated during my childhood. I've traveled extensively, a constant search for a sense of stability that always seemed just out of reach. Ultimately, I found myself residing with my uncle, Nathan. It definitely wasn't part of my grand plan, that's for certain. But sometimes the paths we're forced to take lead us to destinations we never could have conceived. The journey began when my mother had to leave town for an extended work contract overseas, and I found myself in desperate need of a place to stay while completing my final year of college. My uncle was the sole family member capable of providing assistance. He has been united in marriage with his wife, Victoria, for several years now. They reside in a stunning, sprawling home nestled deep in the countryside, a world away from the hustle and bustle of the city. I believed it would merely serve as a brief, quiet retreat, a serene location to focus on my studies. However, events unfolded differently than I had anticipated. After several months, I had acclimated to the house, the quiet rhythm of their lives, and the profound tranquility of the landscape. Or at least, that was the story I told myself. Then one day, an event occurred. An event I must share with you. The real story, my story, began the moment I stepped into Nathan's room and found him in a deep, unguarded slumber. Before we dive deeper into that fateful night, allow me to share some insights about Nathan. He was, and is, different from the typical uncles in my life. In my formative years, he resembled a guide, a mentor, more than a simple relative. He was the one who taught me how to ride a bike, how to repair things around the house with my own two hands, and he even gifted me my first car when I turned 18. So when my mom required someone to take me in, Nathan stood out as the obvious, logical choice. He is considerate, understanding, and exceptionally generous. However, it wasn't solely him I was relocating with. I was also moving in with his spouse. Victoria had been a fixture in his life for quite some time. They tied the knot 2 years back, and initially I had my reservations about her. She seemed to possess a polished, almost brittle perfection that eclipsed Nathan's easygoing warmth. And there was something about that dynamic that felt off to me. In the beginning, she unintentionally caused me to feel as though I truly didn't fit in their home, a temporary fixture in their perfect life. Initially, I occupied the guest room located at the far end of the house, making a concerted effort to avoid being a nuisance, to be as invisible as possible. As time passed, the situation became less uncomfortable. Victoria started sharing her advice with me on cooking, cleaning, and various other household matters. We may not have become the best of friends, but the atmosphere was far less tense than it had been before. I believed that circumstances were improving, that I was finally finding my footing. But recently I've observed something else, something that eludes my understanding and defies all logic. The longer I was in such close proximity to Nathan, the stronger my attraction to him grew. It was in the small things, his easy smiles that seemed reserved just for me, the fleeting, accidental touches as we passed in the hallway, the protective hand on the small of my back, the intense way he'd gaze at me when he believed I wasn't observing. It felt distinct. It felt dangerous. I was unable to rid myself of it. A palpable, electric tension was rising between us, an undeniable energy that demanded to be acknowledged. I know what's on your mind. Ava, he is your uncle. Indeed, it may seem unbelievable, even monstrous. Yet this strange forbidden bond was terrifyingly real. I attempted to convince myself it was merely a figment of my imagination, a projection of my own loneliness and instability. Yet, whenever we found ourselves in solitude, the very atmosphere in the room would crackle with a charged energy, as if an unseen, inexorable force was drawing us nearer. Here's where matters took a turn, where things became quite intriguing. One evening, after a quiet dinner, I found myself engrossed in a complex design project in my room. Footsteps echoed softly in the hallway. I knew that Nathan had been lost in a deep slumber for hours, exhausted from a long week at work, while Victoria was out for the evening, enjoying time with her friends. We were alone in the house. Initially, the thought didn't seem significant, but then I heard it, the soft, almost imperceptible creak of his bedroom door opening. I hesitated for a long moment, my heart beginning to pound a slow, heavy rhythm, uncertain whether to let him be or to check on him. Yet there was an unspoken allure, a magnetic pull that captivated me. I gently pushed open his door, making every effort to avoid disturbing him. He was reclining on his back, one arm propped behind his head, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of deep sleep. He appeared utterly serene, unguarded. As he slumbered, the soft moonlight filtering through the large window painted delicate, shifting shadows across the strong lines of his face, rendering him nearly ethereal. I lingered in the doorway for a long moment, my heart racing, a strange heat spreading through my body, my cheeks flushed. I had never experienced anything quite like this before. This wasn't just familial affection. This was something deeper, something more primal, something terrifying. Suddenly, my train of thought was violently disrupted. As I took a hesitant step into the room, my foot inadvertently caught the leg of a small end table. I stumbled, knocking over a crystal vase. The sound of it shattering on the hardwood floor caused Nathan to stir. His eyes fluttered open, and for a fleeting, disorienting moment, our gazes intertwined. His expression was one of sleepy bewilderment. His eyes fluttered a few times, attempting to lock onto my form in the darkness. Then he released a drowsy, low chuckle and asked, "Ava, what are you doing in here?" His voice was heavy with slumber, a rough, intimate sound that sent a fresh shiver down my spine. My heart raced as I struggled to find the right words, any words. I didn't want to come across as intrusive, as a creep, yet I found it impossible to articulate my thoughts. My mouth was parched. I didn't intend to disturb you, I faltered, a wave of profound unease washing over me. I heard a noise. I thought. Nathan gradually propped himself up on his elbows, his hands moving to massage his tired eyes. He offered me a smile, the familiar, gentle smile that he always wore. Yet tonight, in the intimate dimness of his bedroom, there was an unusual spark in his eyes, something that caused my heart to flutter erratically. He gazed at me for a brief, intense moment before he spoke once more. "It's all right," he murmured gently. His smile dimmed slightly then, and I sensed a brief glimmer of a shared, unspoken understanding in his eyes before it vanished. He patted the empty space beside him on the bed. "Come here." "You know I'm always here to listen," he said, his voice a soft invitation. I lingered for a moment, hesitant, my mind screaming at me to turn and run. Yet an inner force, a will that was not my own, propelled me onward without a second thought. I settled next to him on the edge of the large bed. The atmosphere between us was charged, more intense than it had ever been. The warmth of his body, so close to mine, his intoxicating masculine scent of soap and sleep lingering in the air. We were so near that I could hear the soft sound of his breathing, feel the subtle rise and fall of his chest with each inhalation. My heart began to race once more, each beat feeling as though it unfolded in agonizing slow motion. I gazed up at him, my head tilted back. Our faces were so near that I could feel the warmth of his breath on my skin. His eyes held a gentle softness tinged with a deep, unspoken uncertainty. Yet there was that undeniable spark that sent a shiver racing down my spine. "Ava, are you all right?" Nathan inquired again, his voice a low, concerned murmur. Before I had the chance to respond, before my rational mind could intervene, I moved closer. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs, and I struggled to draw in a breath. I couldn't put it into words, but there was an undeniable energy between us, as if the very air was alive with a vibrant electric hum. Nathan remained perfectly still, gazing into my eyes with a profound, unnerving intensity. The silence enveloped us, yet his breath quickened, mirroring my own. The atmosphere in the room was noticeably warmer, charged, intimate. The quietness that enveloped us became more burdensome with every unspoken thought, every forbidden desire, lingering heavy in the air. My thoughts were a swirling, chaotic tempest. This moment felt like the inevitable culmination of everything that had come before. I could no longer restrain myself. I leaned in, my lips trembling as if caught in a dream. They made contact with his. Initially, the kiss felt awkward, lacking confidence, a tentative exploration. Yet as his lips responded to mine with a tender, surprising softness, I found myself unable to break free. My thoughts screamed for me to halt, to pull back, to restore the natural order of things, yet my body refused to comply. This was essential for me. This was what I desired. Nathan's hand came up to gently cradle my cheek, drawing me nearer. His other hand lay on the mattress between us, close by. His touch brushed against my skin, and I sensed the warmth radiating outward. The kiss intensified, and before long I could no longer distinguish where his lips ended and mine began. All else, guilt, reason, consequence, vanished into the background. It was merely the two of us, enveloped in this undeniable, terrifying, beautiful bond. My thoughts swirled in a tempest of confusion and shame, yet there lingered a strange, profound sensation that this was precisely how things were meant to be. What were we doing? Why did it feel so incredibly essential? It was beyond expression, devoid of explanation. He leaned back slightly, pressing his forehead gently against mine. We were both panting heavily. With each shaky, slow breath, I felt his pulse against my skin, a frantic rhythm synchronizing with my own. "Ava," his voice carried a weight, taut with an unspoken intensity. "We shouldn't," he said, though his own body, pressed against mine, belied his words. "I know," I concurred, my voice a mere whisper. Yet a powerful force within me compelled me to continue. Gently, I extended my hand, weaving my fingers with his. He remained close. Instead of pulling away, his fingers intertwined with mine, gripping just as firmly. As I clung to him, our gazes locked. For what felt like an eternity, we remained in that still, charged moment, wordless. The burden of our transgression, the weight of everything that lingered between us, was a palpable presence in the room. I lifted my hand, grasped the nape of his neck, and drew him nearer. I kissed him once more. This time the moment was devoid of doubt and trepidation, filled only with an overwhelming, desperate desire to be close to him, to experience his presence. Nathan's hand glided down my back, pulling me in even tighter until there was no space left between us. The connection of our bodies created an overwhelming, almost painful intensity. I was uncertain about the direction this was taking, yet truthfully it didn't matter to me. I simply wished to remain in that instant, with just the two of us present, safe from the outside world. My heart raced within my chest. His lips grazed my neck, leaving a trail of gentle, feather-light kisses on my skin. His breath brushed against my ear, sending a shiver racing down my spine. It was an experience unlike any I had ever encountered. Powerful, overwhelming, and slightly off, yet exhilarating, in a manner I struggled to articulate. "Are you certain about this?" he murmured against my skin, his voice thick with a longing that mirrored my own. "I don't want to hurt you, Ava." I shut my eyes, grappling to find my voice. Every rational fiber of my being cried out for me to stop, to retreat, yet I was unable to do so. The desire was overwhelming. The need for this connection struck me deeply. I preferred not to dwell on it, not to scrutinize it. All I desired was to be by his side. "Yes," I murmured, my fingers gliding over his chest, sensing the warmth of his skin beneath my touch. "I want this, Nathan. I want you." His lips found mine once more, and this time the kiss was more profound, filled with a raw, desperate urgency. There was no way to go back now. Nothing beyond the four walls of this room held any significance. What truly mattered was the way he made me feel, desired, essential, more vibrant and alive than I had ever felt before. The space felt as though it was closing in on us, the world shrinking until it contained only the two of us. The lights around us seemed to fade, deepening the illicit bond we shared. Each touch, each kiss, carried the weight of a promise for something deeper, something we both sensed but couldn't quite grasp, yet we were both eager to discover. His heartbeat resonated with mine, creating a harmonious rhythm that felt both steady and profoundly comforting, despite a lingering resistance deep within me to accept the unfolding reality. A more substantial part of me surrendered entirely. It had evolved beyond mere kisses. It was an inexplicable bond, something profound that eluded my ability to articulate. "I've wanted this for so long," Nathan murmured, his breath soft and inviting against my lips. I struggled to grasp his words while my hands explored him, tracing the hard contours of his muscles beneath his shirt, sensing his warmth and his immediate responses to my touch. There was an undeniable force between us, bringing us nearer, binding us together. Neither of us anticipated that time would stand still in that moment as we became completely enveloped in one another, in the gentle, deepening cadence of our kisses, in the intoxicating heat of our embrace. For the first time in my life, everything simply felt right. In that stillness of the room, we transcended the labels of uncle and niece. We were two souls intertwined by a bond that transcended anything I had ever experienced. The atmosphere surrounding Nathan and me was charged with a palpable, almost humming tension. Neither of us stirred, nor uttered a sound. We were lost in our own private world. Suddenly, the stillness was violently interrupted by the distinct, familiar sound of the front door creaking open downstairs. We both froze. My heart leaped into my throat as I swiftly distanced myself from Nathan, a tidal wave of pure, cold panic surging through my chest. What have we just done? What was happening between us? A wave of suffocating guilt enveloped me. I experienced a sense of being completely overwhelmed, yet there was an undeniable, thrilling feeling that lingered beneath the surface. I found myself caught in the brutal tension of what had just transpired and the terrifying reality that we were entangled in something impossible to leave behind. Nathan remained still for a moment, his face a mask of shock. His gaze remained fixed on me, yet his expression eluded my understanding. The illicit warmth lingered between us, the intimate connection still unbroken. "Ava," he murmured, his voice strained. But before he could continue, footsteps resonated from the staircase. "Nathan!" a voice called out. It struck me immediately, and my heart sank like a stone. It was Victoria. I sprang from the bed, my breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. I was completely at a loss for what to do. My thoughts were in a frantic, chaotic frenzy, yet I could find no way out. Was I truly going to have to confront her, right now, after everything that had just transpired? The door to Nathan's room, which I had left slightly ajar, slowly creaked open. There she stood, Victoria, framed in the doorway, her presence filling the entire space. Astonishment was etched across her beautiful features. Her gaze flickered back and forth between Nathan, who was now sitting on the edge of the bed, and me, a clear sign of her profound confusion. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, surveyed the scene, the disheveled bed, our flushed faces, my own state of disarray. "Nathan? Ava? What's happening here?" Her voice trembled slightly, yet there lingered an intuition, an instinct that whispered to her that something was deeply, fundamentally amiss. My face went pale, as if all the blood had drained from it. Victoria's presence was akin to a refreshing, terrifying jolt of cold water. At that instant, everything seemed utterly, irredeemably wrong. It was impossible to articulate this, impossible to comprehend the events that had just unfolded between Nathan and me. My throat constricted as I struggled to find the words to explain the inexplicable. I hesitated, uncertain of how to respond. Nathan, perched on the edge of the bed, appeared equally adrift. He rubbed the back of his neck, a clear sign of his deep embarrassment and his uncertainty in finding the right words to explain the situation. Victoria's gaze shifted from him to me, and an unspoken, painful understanding lingered in the air between us. At that instant, it felt as though everything transformed. Victoria sensed that something profound had transpired, something that was not meant to be. But rather than expressing anger or disappointment, her eyes reflected a deep, unsettling sorrow. As she entered the room, she gently shut the door behind her. Her presence was so powerful, so unexpectedly calm, that the entire room fell silent, like the eerie stillness just before a tempest. "You must grasp something important," Victoria said softly, her tone more tender than I could have ever anticipated. "There's more to this than you realize, more than either of you understand." I gazed at her, my thoughts a tempest of utter bewilderment. What was her intention? What more could there possibly be? The silence lingered long after Victoria departed from the room, leaving Nathan and me alone with the chaotic wreckage of our actions. Her words echoed in the air, and in the midst of all the chaos, her serene comprehension and her strange willingness to help sparked a glimmer of hope I hadn't anticipated. Victoria was not angry. Instead, she had offered us an opportunity, a chance that felt shaky and hesitant, yet it existed. I cast a quick look at Nathan. His expression was a complex blend of remorse, confusion, and an elusive emotion I couldn't fully identify. He averted my gaze, his hands fidgeting together in a nervous, agitated manner. I could sense the immense burden he carried from the events that had unfolded, how our lives had collided in such an unexpected, destructive way. As I pondered further, the deeper I delved into it, the clearer it became that none of this was part of anyone's design. Events had simply unfolded, spiraling beyond our influence. But there was one certainty in my mind. We couldn't simply overlook it or pretend as if nothing had occurred. Victoria was right about that. All these bewildering emotions, all these tangled matters required direct confrontation and resolution. "What should we do now?" I murmured, my voice trembling slightly. Nathan gazed at me, his eyes brimming with a myriad of conflicting emotions. "I don't know, Ava. I'm unsure of what I'm feeling or thinking. Am I justified in feeling anger or shame or anything at all?" His voice cracked, revealing the profound turmoil within him. He was caught in the impossible tension between the undeniable connection we shared and his deep, abiding commitment to Victoria, his wife. This was not an issue that could be resolved in a single simple conversation. He inhaled deeply and moved nearer to me. I felt the overwhelming urge to reach out and offer him comfort, yet I questioned whether that was the appropriate course of action. I simply wasn't sure what the right choice was anymore. "I doubt we can resolve everything at this moment," I murmured softly. "However, I believe it's essential for us to be truthful with one another and to engage in a real conversation. This situation is far too intricate to simply ignore." Nathan nodded slowly, his expression grave, yet devoid of anger. "I know. I honestly have no idea where to even start." I grasped his hand, experiencing a strange mix of solace and a hint of tension from the unspoken words still lingering between us. "We begin by acknowledging what transpired," I said, finding a strength I didn't know I possessed. "How we felt, and what emotions still linger. And then we determine our next steps, together." He nodded once more, his expression softening, just a fraction. "It won't be simple, Ava, but I want to figure this out. I need clarity about the dynamics between us." I squeezed his hand. A warmth passed between us, a silent acknowledgement of the difficult path ahead. "I don't have all the answers, Nathan. I'm uncertain about what lies ahead, but I refuse to run away from this situation. Not anymore." We lingered in silence for a long moment, each of us absorbed in our own reflections, attempting to unravel the tangled skein of events that had unfolded. The way forward was obscured, and the answers were anything but straightforward. The emotions, the uncertainty, it was overwhelming to process. However, what Victoria had presented to us seemed like a strange, unexpected beacon of hope, a possibility to confront all our challenges collectively and navigate through the chaos we had created. I glanced at Nathan once more, and for the first time, I sensed that regardless of what unfolded next, we would confront it with sincerity. A flawless solution eluded us, and there was no simple escape, yet a glimmer of hope remained. A hope for clarity, for restoration, and perhaps even for something more. As I finally left his room, my thoughts were still swirling with endless possibilities. Victoria's tranquility and insight had unveiled a passage I hadn't realized existed. She hadn't dismissed us or criticized us. Rather, she had allowed us the freedom to reflect, to understand what had transpired. What might follow? What might unfold if we openly acknowledge the depth of our lingering, forbidden emotions? Those questions would have to wait. We were both aware that nothing would ever return to how it once was. Our only option was to move forward, whatever that entailed, and find a way to navigate it as a team, a strange, broken, yet undeniably connected trio. How do you navigate a situation where love, loyalty, and forbidden desire collide in the most impossible of ways? It's a question without an easy answer. Thank you for being here for this complicated story. If it made you feel, please give it a like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what do you think true forgiveness looks like in a situation this complex?